Hello, welcome to AstroPsych. My name is Kathleen, and today is July 7th, 2025, 10:30 a.m. I just wanted to come in here for a few minutes and talk about the event that occurred this morning when Uranus ingressed into Gemini in the United States of America. This was 3:45 a.m. from the Eastern Daylight Time Zone. I am hailing out of the Lynchburg, Virginia greater area near the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. And so I'm going with the 3:45 a.m. time. I wanted to talk about the significance of Uranus ingressing into Gemini in light of history. And a lot of astrologers have been talking about this for some time. And I went in and did my own research and kind of dug a little deeper. And of course, I'm very grateful for all of the teachers out there that are talking about this. But we had 4 events that have taken place when Uranus goes into Gemini that are greatly significant to the United States of America. So, what I want to do is give a synopsis really quick of what it means when we have movement of within the planet Uranus and in the sign of Gemini. So, first of all, what is Uranus? Well, Uranus is the lord of Aquarius, and Aquarius rules in fixed air, and Aquarius rules over the 11th house. And Aquarius is known to be very altruistic, friendly, inventive, individualistic, intellectual, logical, perceptive, quite rebellious, unique, unpredictable, and the visionaries of the zodiac. Aquarius is the water bearer, known as the mantra of we know. This is air energy that is having to do with versatility, being very idealistic, the other air signs being Gemini and Libra. This is themes of brotherhood, themes of where our own idealistic and creative intellect energies show up. Lessons of brotherhood, humanitarian in nature. This is our larger groups, the 11th house, our deeper, larger friendships. This is where we will leave, therefore, our shedding of the 10th house, where we have had our career now and we're going towards the energies that are out among the collective in society. Like-minded people, similar interests, people that want to achieve the same ideals and the same hopes in joint activities and group expression. Our social life and friends show up in that 11th house. So it's where we've learned to take our identity and place it out among other people. This requires our intellect, for sure. It requires the mercurial Gemini nature and the Venetian Libra of how am I going to partner with my creativity? How am I going to make money in balance and ebb and flow, with Venus also ruling Taurus in a fixed nature that is learning how to deal with its deep, visceral, Venetian, creative, earthly expressions that are being held. And then it's Uranus and Saturn ruling Aquarius. Saturn rules Capricorn as well, but in that 10th house, it acts different than when it really acts in the 11th house. It's a side of Saturn where it's now wanting to take its individualistic nature and the structures it developed in the 10th and come out and use them. It's not so much the discipline of achieving them, Capricorn, which is we control. It's our ambition, our methodical, preserving, realistic, responsible, rigid type of energy where we put structures amongst ourselves. We see this in society. It's the house of government as well, where we have these rules and regulations that are placed down. It's more of a harsher, I don't want to say darker, because we need harsh. We need those rules. We need structure. In the 11th house, it's where your own structures are going out. So Saturn here is working with Uranus, and we're seeing in the planet Uranus this fast, electric, highly inventive, the Internet of Things. It's the sky god, inspirational, sudden invention, breakthroughs in society structures of the 10th house that were laid down to become more independent and original. It is a very rebellious planet. Uranus goes through the Milky Way, our solar system, the zodiac, on its side. And it is, along with Venus, a planet that is moving counterclockwise in direction, meaning how it spins forward through our solar system. And this is where you get this, I'm going to do it my way. It's going to be unique and it's going to be different. Now, Uranus is in fixed air. Air we've talked about, but what does it mean to be fixed, and what is fixed? Each of the signs have a way that they move, and there are either cardinal, representing the 4 angled houses, in Western tropical, the 4 seasons, and they are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. So you see the energies and where it's been Capricorn and Saturn, and that Uranus moving from there more outward. This energy in the 11th and in fixed signs is more about carrying through the purposes of the cardinal signs. It has the ability to take this cardinal power, cardinal invention, and put it in structured containers and hold it and make something of it. So this is you showing up in your own uniqueness, your own individuality, and how the world also is bringing in. It's an outer planet, not a inner planet. It's trans-Neptunian, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, out there, outside of the structures and the bounds of the naked eye of the first 7 planets. So, what do we have here when it goes into Gemini, and what has occurred and what has happened within the United States? Well, Gemini is, I think, ruling the 3rd house in mutable direction of air. Mutable takes the fixed processes and structures and beauty and destruction, things that it has done, and it concludes and assimilates that season of the structure, and it exchanges it with the greater society. It's taking our very fixed, rebellious, unique ways of seeing and doing all things 11th house, and it's, where am I now going to come out into society and finish something, conclude something, support what's been done and engage it, and not turn my back on it, but use it as a tool in my life, how it should be, and send it out for the next 7 years in this energy of Gemini that is mercurial. We see the journalist, the teacher, the linguist here. All things third house is mindset and thinking and speaking, our writing styles and our learning. And it's in the lower half of the chart where the 11th was in the higher quadrant of 4 social and spiritual expression houses 10 through 12. And quadrant 1 is personal identity 1 through 3. And that is the third house, first house, second house, immediate environment and communication. So where are we exchanging information? Where are we learning? Where is there shock and the unexpected, improvisational, I don't even know if that's a word, reactions in society where our rebel yell is going to come forth with such power and expression? It's undeniable. It will be seen. Where we saw in 1774 to 1782 the Revolutionary War for American independence, where we saw in 1858 to 1866 the Civil War between the North and South of the United States of America. I don't know why I want to cry every time I say that about the Civil War. All wars, any war, horrible, right? There's something about the Civil War that really makes me sad. I think it's because this is my country, right? And I'm not for any one flag. I'm for everybody's flag, man. You know, I'm for harmony. I'm a 60s born child. I don't want anybody hating on anybody. But when you have a war within your own country, or you have a war within your own borders, you have a war within your own cities, you have a war within your own states, cities, and then homes, and then with people, it becomes a bit more personal, right? So this war, really, the Civil War, 1858 to 1866, breaks my heart. All right, then we had from 1941 to 1949, World War II. And now it's 2025 to 2033, whereas you see in the chart, we're going to go to this chart now and really talk about it for a minute. We see how Uranus has ingressed inside of Gemini, 0000 degrees, 3:45 and 33 a.m. Huddleston, Virginia here. I put it a little closer to home, so... but this is very near Lynchburg. I'm about 20 miles from Lynchburg, depending on where you go and the direction you go. So, all right, here we go. I deliberately have the harmonious signatures up here, which are known as the harmonic aspects, the tools and aspects of the zodiac that give us trines and sextiles. And these aspects, what they do is they create a language between the angles. And these languages are spoken through symbols, psychological meanings, archetypical meanings, how we see these structures in society, and in, of course, the greater world, as far as other countries, other peoples. What it does is it brings ideas and forms together, or it separates them and challenges them. And those challenges and separations or oppositions and squares are the dynamic aspects of 180 and 90. So we're looking at the trine of 120, symbol of a triangle, nature of Jupiter, where the psychological meaning is this slow, constant action of harmony. Yes, we have a lot of harmony. You're like, no, we don't. Well, perhaps we need to look where the harmony is and remind ourselves that sometimes when things are in harmony, we can take them for granted. right? We can not appreciate what we have right now. And one of the challenges of mental health, one of the challenges for me that I was challenged with was living in the moment. Like, the only change that I can ever make is right this moment, right? Like, in a moment, you choose to quit smoking cigarettes, or in a moment, you choose to get in your car and drive, or in a moment, you choose to get down on your knee and ask that girl or guy to marry you. And in a moment, you look across a crowded room and your eyes meet, and you meet the love of your life who you'll be with for the next 50 years. Listen, sudden shocks and awe are not all bad. Sometimes they rouse us from our complacency, and they move and propel us to shift our seat, to move our direction, and to look at what is working and go towards it and hone it like a gift. Because that's what these tools are when they come in harmony. They're gifts. And we have a lot of things going on that are really going to help us in the sectors of health, in the sectors of healing, in the sectors of the way we do our own expressions of creativity and invention, in the ways that now in 2025, with the internet well having been established and AI pummeling in like Uranus and Gemini would, speaking fast new inventions. Every day it explodes, and everyone is talking about this. Here we have Uranus and Gemini inciting a highly individualistic nature. How we use that energy says a lot about who we are. And clearly, some people have different feelings about the American Revolution for independence than others. And we're awakening to the shadow side of these wars and the dark sides of what really happened. Okay? What we'll see in Gemini is speaking. Gemini talks. It is not subtle energy. Gemini wants to express, wants to engage, wants to mix, and wants to tell. And it's highly intelligent energy. Notice in this chart the decans of Jupiter, the first 10 degrees, Mars, the second degrees, and the Sun, the third degrees of 10. 0 to 10 Jupiter, 10 to 20 Mars, 20 to 30 the Sun. We have Uranus coming in on the ending Saturn decan in the sign of Taurus, where it had held the hardest and held the longest, and really put that added layer, that added energy of, damn, we are going to discuss structures, the ones that are in place and the ones that need to go. This first house here is the ascendant house where it ingressed in the United States of America on the East Coast. And, look for it where it is for you. But for me, I really love California, and, I love other parts of the world, but I don't live there. So pulling up a chart for right where you live, down to the cities, wow, man, you can really get a feel for the energy ley lines and how it speaks. And then you lay this on your chart, your natal chart, and you can see where this is speaking for you. And so For all Geminis, you're experiencing this. Wherever you have Gemini, you're experiencing this. Gemini, sun, moon, ascendants. Big time shift for you right now, along with your opposite sign. We must look at polarities. Gemini is opposite Sagittarius. In the seventh, there, where our moon is sitting at 4 degrees, representing all things female, the masses, our ancestry, our roots, our deepest visceral, emotional, instinctual being, therefore, really our mind, our true mind, where Gemini's that mercurial, earthy, chatty, and interrelated expression mind. The moon is the internal mind, which the Vedic astrologers really bring in a lot stronger than Western. We got this polarity going on from the 1st and the 7th. Uranus is going to be transiting Huddleston, Virginia, Lynchburg, Virginia, the East Coast, right around that first house here. Important to see in the decan of Jupiter next to Venus. The ascendant is in the second decan at 11, but let's look at Uranus 00 conjunct Venus 02, and Venus has over the last few days been working its way through Uranus. When it was at 29, it did this, and we're going to talk about that 29 degree in a minute, but I want to talk about what it means for Venus here being conjunct, because whenever we bring in another planet, we bring in that planet's signature, and we have to look at how do these planets do in their placement, in their sign. Like, that's called the dignity. So how does Uranus do in Gemini in that planetary dignity? Well, Uranus is ruled by Aquarius. It's detriment in Leo because it's opposite. Aquarius is opposite Leo. It's exalted in Scorpio. It does very well. Another fixed sign. And it falls in Taurus. Does not do well in Taurus. Taurus is opposite of Scorpio. Okay. With Uranus and Gemini 000, what I want to do is read the Sabian symbol here. And if you listen to my moon video that I just put out for our full buck moon in Capricorn coming up July 10th, I talked a bit about the Sabian symbols. I've been bringing these in. Remember, we round up. It's important to note 29 and 0 are potent degrees, extremely potent degrees. So when we get into 1 degree now, we have ingressed in. We're out of the prior skin of Taurus. We have left fixed earth. Be done with this. Be done with fixed earth, Taurus. In your chart, whatever lessons there's been for the last 7 years, done, completed. We're moving on to a new theme that wants to move out, that wants to be mutable, that wants to use your mind, that wants to use your intellect, ingenuity, your rebel yell. The Goldsmith Revised Sabian symbol for 1st degree of Gemini. At an opening, an artist stands in front of a self-portrait and explains what he was aiming for, while audience members talk excitedly amongst themselves. Ushering people into a new way of seeing things that has exciting implications. Creating a cultural buzz. Unveilings, cultural coups, seek fame or at least notoriety, sharing observations of life that go beyond mere superficials, intuitive or clairvoyant perception of the spirit animating individual forms. The formation of new social groups around exciting shared experiences. The mind as a magic mirror that reflects images of the outer world and of the imagination, though in a distorted, individualistic way. Translating mental images into words, actions, or works of art. The personality as a work of art that channels archetypes of the group mind and thus has a fascinating or electrifying effect on the public. Self-exploration versus self-absorption. I love that because I just said that we're leaving this fixed self, Taurus, of where the energy's been held and contained, and we've been busy, really putting some things in place and making something, man, right? This self exploration and shadow work and getting better and getting healed. The teacher resides in the Hierophant, which rules Taurus. This, deep understanding. Now, this self absorption is going to cease, and we're going to do self exploration, right? Going out, being mutable, Gemini, being willing to take our physical frames. And hey, that may mean going out of your artwork studio to your house, to your garden, back into your artwork studio. Listen, what matters is that you do you, and you find what your voice is speaking to you. And in order to do that, you got to know yourself. And in order to know yourself, you got to spend time with yourself. And to spend time with yourself, you have to make it a priority. And to make it a priority, you have to look at what's taking your time away. And to look at what's taking your time away, you have to sit down and actually put it out on paper, or speak it out, or talk to someone, or see it. And so you can know then your solution of how to manage all of your time better, to then be able to do the deeper work, to then be able to move from that self understanding to taking yourself and expressing yourself. And I think that's what Uranus in Gemini at a deeper level is wanting to do. Now, how does this tie into war? You got to remember, it really depended on the United States of America's chart, right? Because we have in the seventh house of the United States chart, we have Uranus inside of Gemini in the seventh house, and it's not tightly conjunct Mars, I would say, meaning the orb, meaning the degrees away. It's not super close, but because it's in the same sign, we always look to, okay, what's the blended message here? Because Mars sitting there is not subtle energy. And you really have to take a look at where this energy is hitting. In the United States chart there, you see we have Uranus at 8 degrees in Gemini, the descendant, which of course is the seventh house, which is the opposite of the ascendant, where you came in your portal. So the seventh house is those of the other. Your partnerships, your marriages, your contracts, your agreements, where you need to have a balance of yourself to the outer world, yada, yada, yada. Okay, Mars is at 21 degrees in Gemini. So prior to the United States of America being born, if we back this Mars up, it moves quickly. Mars's cycle through the zodiac is 2.5 years. And the areas of life that get affected when Mars is transiting is work, conflict, and sexuality. Mars is ruling over Aries, remember, and Scorpio. So it's where our own personal power, yang, cardinal energy, our war energy, our aggression, yes, where we go out and fight for something. And then in Scorpio, in fixed waters, it's where we have to contend and deal with all of the warring and the fighting. because nothing goes through Scorpio and doesn't get touched. Nothing goes through Scorpio without getting touched, I should say. Okay? Uh, it is the transformative sign. What does it mean when we have a conjunction here? So it's neither neutral or harmonious, but it depends on dignities and it depends on if they get along, right? Whether they're friends or enemies, so to speak. And again, our Eastern Vedic astrologers and go a little deeper into that. And it's quite fascinating. I've been studying Vedic and just to see the mythology and the ties and the story of the planets. Wow, it's fascinating. So I just encourage you to look a little deeper at that if you like astrology. But okay, so we've got this conjunction going on. Mars is already greatly alert in Gemini, very sharp minded, high intellect, has the gift of repertoire here, the capability to supply, I would say, ready answers when put on the spot, forceful and direct. And this is where we saw in our partnerships in the United States of America map, we were saying, look, no, we're speaking to you. Man, did we ever speak through Thomas Jefferson in the writing of the Declaration of Independence? This is the ultimate Mars and Gemini expression, if there ever was one. Forceful, direct communication, okay, debating, provocative, quarrelsome in Mars, quick to criticize in Mars, drawn to energetic and enthusiastic situations, very direct and competitive when it's in Mars in relationships. This is a sparring, warring, fighting activity with other people. Can I tell you really fast? One of the reasons why I started even getting into astrology and studying it was because I woke up, so to speak, from this like bubble matrix, is the only way I can say it, where I like began to understand my surroundings in a way that I hadn't seen them as far as political and government and financial and medical sectors of our world. Like all of those areas, I was a financial advisor at the time. And my son had served in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and he came home. He's a Marine, and he came home and started sharing things with me that I had no idea about. And it was almost like the best way to put it is when Neo gets unplugged, that's exactly what happened to me in metaphorical terms. Because that awakening, it was a Uranus Uranian moment for me where it completely shifted my future. And I ended up consequently, after many, many years in the financial sector, leaving that industry completely and taking those skills, because I certainly learned a lot there, but taking them out of the finance sector and into the wellness sector and into health and into mental health and holistic living and practices and reconnecting where I know I've done in past lives back to nature and herbology and making medicinal drinks and concoctions and experimenting with plant medicine. And yeah, I completely left and surrendered all my licenses uh, only to get my insurance license back for selling insurance, which I think is a bit different than the financial sector. I don't have as big of a problem with the insurance industry as I did with the financial sector. I am currently licensed in Commonwealth of Virginia with insurance licenses as well. So I kind of have that going on. I stayed practical a little bit, but it wasn't until many, many, many years later that I actually went back and got my insurance license. I've just done that recently. But I did that for practical reasons because I see what's going on and I wanted to have that active with those skills as well. So, along with that, I just had this awakening and it caused us to, not just me, my husband, both simultaneously, long discussions into the night about, wow, I didn't know this was happening. Wow, I didn't know that happened. Wow, I didn't know about Bohemian Grove, the Bretton Woods Agreement. I didn't know about Jekyll Island and the formation of the Federal Reserve. I didn't know about how really there isn't a political system at all. It just appears to have this duality of Republican and Democrat. Really, there is something moving even deeper behind that hand. Now, this is my understanding. Then I began to, just read things I never was allowed to read because I did also have layered on top of that this Christian experience where I had a very mystical experience with the Master Jesus Christ. Won't go into that, but that occurred when I was 19. And so I've had these awakenings that have shifted my understanding. And all I can say is it's this type of energy. Okay. So I bring all that in to say this is the time where for the next 7 years, we're going to have a look back in retrograde. Okay. This is going to happen. Uranus is going to dip back again over that 29 from September 6th 2025 to March 2026. And then we also have simultaneously Saturn and Neptune, which had recently ingressed over the 29 into Aries, now stationing retrograde to go back into Pisces. Yes, back into Pisces. So this is a really big deal. We've got this review going on before we finally settle back in. Okay. So we have the review, then we're going to settle back in. And I can promise you by 2026, June 2026, things are going to be more settled, if I could say that. Now, we're in air and fire by that time, where all 3 outer planets would have done its last look backs. The North and South Node are in retrograde. They're going to do their last look backs. And we're going to be done with this. Mercury's going into retrograde July 18th. Yeah, there's a lot here, guys. So I wanted to do this video to let you know we've seen this energy before. It's always related to war. It's always related to great change. Maybe it won't be the type of war like a World War III. Let's believe it not to be. I haven't gone forward and looked. I wanted to come in here. I wanted to share this, and I wanted to bring some encouragement to you and let you know that we're amid a golden opportunity. And I want to bring in the Tarot card to close and have you take a look at this. Now, this is courtesy of Galaxy Tarot. And this is the Tower card represented by Uranus. And this is the 16th card of a major arcana within the Tarot structure. Not an easy card, of course, never easy to look at. A sudden change going on, disruption, destruction, a purging and a liberation, a revelation. And we see this in the imagery when we go deeper in the interpretation with the symbols. But the Tower is a card of turmoil, destruction, and rapid change. So it can represent big world events because this is not an interpersonal planet. This is a trans-Neptunian planet. It is an outer planet. Global epidemics, global wars, but it could be something more personal and smaller, like a sudden argument, a sudden loss, a sudden invention, a sudden explosion where everything blows up, but then you look at something that's left on the table and it becomes your masterpiece, your signature, your creative expression of some great creative effort. Okay? The outcome of the Tower situation is not predictable. It really does depend on what those two people do. But the Tower shakes up our lives. We gain clarity about what's most important and where our strengths lie. So the mantra here for the Tower is, in moments of upheaval, I find my truest self. Sudden events, unexpected upheavals, they shift our perspective. This is where we see the associations of the yods. And the yods symbolize divine sparks of inspiration. The yods are falling down after the people have fallen. There are 22 yods, a deeply, deeply significant number, a master number, a number that is considered to be highly powerful and potent, as it's past all of the main numbers. The Tower reduces to a 7, and 7 is all about the introspection and quest for wisdom. It encourages us to journey inward and unveil mysteries and growing through self-awareness. And the associated cards to the Tower are the Chariot. We are in Cancer season. The Chariot itself is representing Cancer. Cancer has this self-discipline, great determination, often has victory because of those characteristics if they're operating in dignity. They can have great alignment. Therefore, they travel out with that cardinal energy. Look to your Cancer. We are in Cancer season. We are at a 13-degree Cancer sun in the United States of America. Where is the sun in the chart of the Uranus inception? It is at 15 degrees. The United States had its solar return on July 4th, Independence Day. So, very important to see the greater themes, the greater shifts, and the trines and sextiles working in our favor when these planets that are outer, these trans-Neptunians, are in air and fire. We see harmony. This is not an accident. Air in Gemini works with fire in Aries. Fire in Aries works with air in Aquarius. Here is where you need to look in your charts to see the greatest change. What's happening with your Uranus, what's happening with your Neptune and Saturn, and what's happening with your Pluto. We are being called upon to shift, to morph, to change, to move out, to exchange, and not to hold onto stubbornly ideas that don't work. Because the Tower will come to those who resist change. Because change is the constant steady. With that, I leave you, and I really want you to be encouraged. Work with these energies that are working. We must learn to understand we're really one, and it doesn't matter what our color, what our beliefs, what our, even where we go with our direction, as much as what we have in common, which is we are human. We are a human race having human experiences as spirits, and we are not in easy times. But we are resilient. We have seen this before, and we have solutions if we're willing to seek them. We have not been left without help. Blessed be.